Nigerians 2025 tax reform, a law meant to fix our economy, increase government revenue, and make things fairer.
But the question is, will it really help the people or will it just make life harder for the ordinary Nigerian? Let's break it down simply. What this new tax means for you, me, businesses, and the future of the economy. 2025 is a turning point for Nigerian fiscal policy. What is this fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is one of the ways the government runs or regulates the economy. Basically, there are two major ways the government regulates the economy, either through monetary policy or fiscal policy. Fiscal policy refers to how a government uses its spending and taxation to influence a country's economy. While monetary policy is the use of banking regulation to either expand or contract the economy. Let me explain how it works. There are three types of fiscal policies: expansionary, contractionary, and neutral fiscal policy. In expansionary fiscal policy, the government boosts economic growth during slowdown or recession. And this is how it works. The government increased spending in infrastructure, education, jobs, etc., and reduce tax to increase people's disposable income. They can also encourage businesses to invest and consumers to spend more. For example, during economic crisis, the government built roads, pay contractors, and cut tax to stimulate demand. On the other hand, contractionary fiscal policy is the opposite of expansionary fiscal policy. In this case, the government slowed down an overheating economy or reduced inflation. This is how it works. The government reduced spending, cut public projects or subsidy, and increased tax to reduce excess money circulation. The last fiscal policy is the neutral fiscal policy.
In this case, the government tries to maintain a balance between taxation and expenditure.
The government revenue is roughly equal to expenditure. This fiscal policy is used when the economy is stable and doesn't need intervention. But that's not the case in Nigeria. It's disappointing to see our government spend more than it earns, completely going against the principles of contractionary fiscal policy. How do you raise tax, remove subsidy, and still fail to reduce government spending? It's even worse that most of this expenditure go into recurrent costs, salaries, allowances, and running expenses, rather than investment that could grow the economy. Instead of tightening the belt like citizens are forced to do, the government continues to expand its own comfort zone. You can't call it fiscal discipline when revenue is squeezed from the people, yet expenditure remains unchecked. At this rate, taxpayers are bearing the burdens of poor economic management. Ideal tax should create balance and not punish the rich. Tax is supposed to balance society and not destroy those who are doing well. If the rich keep feeling like government is trying to shrink them through heavy taxes, they will simply move their money out of the country or stop investing. A good tax system should make sure the rich contribute fairly without scaring away investors. The goal should be growth, not punishment. When the rich invest, they create jobs, and that's how the economy grows. On the other hand, if enforcement is weak, wealthy individuals and complex multinational structures can exploit loopholes and shelters. Unless anti-avoidance and enforcement are credible, the wealthy will remain effectively undertaxed. The idea of removing fuel subsidy and increasing import taxes was to make local production cheaper and more attractive, to gear towards diversified exploitation at all costs. But has it worked? Not really. Why? Because government support is missing. Electricity is poor, infrastructure is bad, policy change too often, so local producers can't compete. If you remove subsidies and make importation expensive, but you don't fix power supply, transport, and corruption, the cost of doing business stays high. That's why even with these reforms, our local factories are still struggling. Local manufacturers need consistent, predictable policy, access to foreign exchange for inputs, and long-term financing. Short spike in domestic energy costs do not by themselves create new factories. The government cannot employ everyone. Here's the truth. No government can employ up to 5% of its population. Even if they try, they give broke. Only the private sector can truly create jobs. Small businesses, tech startups, factories, farm, traders. So instead of overtaxing them, government should make policies that help them thrive. Cheap loans, stable power, clear regulations. Because when businesses grow, they hire more people. That's how unemployment drops. In essence, the government should not brag with creating more government jobs.
We will create more jobs.
Advanced nations like the USA are cutting down on those. Rather, they should enable the private sectors to do the heavy lifting. Government and tax is like a landlord and rent. Think of Nigeria as a big apartment. The government is the landlord and the citizens tenants. We pay rent and that's our tax. A good landlord uses the rent to maintain the building, fix the roof, paint the walls, provide water. But if the landlord collects rent and the house keeps leaking, tenants start to complain. That's exactly what's happening in Nigeria. The government collects taxes, the rent, but the houses, the country, keeps breaking down. No light, no water, bad roads. People are tired of paying for a house that's not being maintained. Nigeria is neither a part of BRICS nation or G7. Will tax reform make us productive? We are not among the world's top economy group like BRICS or G7. Tax reform alone cannot make us join them. What makes countries great is production. What they create, do, export and innovate. If our factories, farm and tech industries aren't producing, even the best tax policy won't make us richer. We must move from a consumer nation to a producer nation. The policies in Nigeria hurt foreign investment more than Yahoo boys. Yes, Yahoo boys hurt Nigerians' image, but do you know what hurts us more? Inconsistent government policies. Investors can handle risks, but they hate uncertainty. When taxes change suddenly, or the naira rate jump overnight, or import ban appears from nowhere, they panic. That's why some foreign companies leave Nigeria, not because of crime, but because of unstable policy. The government's policies cripple local businesses. Many Nigerian businesses want to grow, but government make it hard. Multiple taxes, poor infrastructure, expensive power. It's like trying to run a race with a heavy load on your back. Government should be a partner, not a problem. Instead of strangling small businesses, it should support them through fair taxation and good governance. Another factor that is worth looking into is the 800,000 naira benchmark for zero taxation. The new tax reform says people earning 800,000 naira should pay. But what does that mean? 800,000 naira per year is only about 66,000 naira a month. Taxing that amount means you're taxing the poor, not the rich. We need to be clear, who are we really taxing? If the minimum wage is 70,000 naira, then someone earning 800,000 naira or a little bit above 800,000 naira a year is just surviving, not thriving. The minimum wage defines the poor. When the government sets a minimum wage, it's saying this is the least a human being should earn to live decently. So, if that is 70,000 naira a month and we still tax people around that range, we are directly taxing poverty. A fair system should protect the poor, not burden them more. Security affects everything, even taxes. If the country isn't safe, business won't thrive. One solution is state policing. Let states manage their own security. Yes, some say governors may abuse it, but isn't that what the federal government already does? Decentralizing security can reduce the burden on the center and make responses faster. Finally, let's talk about bunkering, illegal oil deals, and monopoly. When the government favor a few big players like Dangote, small producers can't grow. We need open competition, not closed doors. Small producers can't grow because they are locked out. That's why we need fair play, equal opportunities for all, not special treatment for a few. In summary, tax reform is good, but only when it is fair, consistent, and tied to a real development. You can't tax your way out of poverty, you build your way out of it. Tax reform should bring balance, not punishment. Let tax be a bridge, not a burden. Government should fix power, infrastructure, and corruption if they want production to rise. In other words, fix the basics, empower businesses, and let Nigeria see results. Only the private sector can create real jobs. And most importantly, Nigeria should see what their tax rent is doing. Because when people see results, they will pay happily. When people see progress, they will gladly play their part. But when there is no result, every tax feels like robbery. Nigeria does not need more tax laws. Nigerians need working system. Please subscribe for more economic truth made simple.